From Columbia, in high definition, this is WIS News 10 Awareness.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. You don't have to.
I am banning Mr. Sterling for life from any association with the Clippers organization or the NBA.
Donald Sterling has been banned, fined, and the NBA is now trying to force him out of ownership after private racist comments went public. Thank you for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. Startling and offensive words from a man in a powerful and influential position. In the last week, Clippers owner Donald Sterling has been censured and his comments condemned by the NBA for an audio recording in which he admonishes his mistress for being seen in public with black people. What do his words reveal about the culture of racism in America? Joining us for this discussion is Dr. Lonnie Randolph Jr., president of the South Carolina NAACP, and Mr. James McLawhorn Jr., president of the Columbia Urban League. Thank you both so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Should Donald Sterling be punished for his personal beliefs?
Well, his beliefs were personal as long as he kept them between the person that he was speaking to and by himself. Beyond that, when you make your personal public, you deserve anything that comes with it. And he wasn't. I'm happy for what was done, but I wish there was some way to ban him after death, because the seriousness of human rights and to downplay mistreating innocent people, that to me, that's an unpardonable sin. So it's good that he can't, he'll have to get out, but that ain't enough. We take too much of a soft approach to crimes against humanity.
So his $2.5 million fine, not enough?
Billionaire, no. That's a drop in the bucket. He probably spends that much on his social life. So I wish they could find him even more. And again, I say that because this country will celebrate its 238th birthday this July 2nd. And at some point, we're going to have to disband this this mindset that you can do anything you want to certain people in this country without any consequences. And this was a start. It won't solve all of the problems of race in this country, because we don't have to go to Seattle to look at just how powerful racism still is in America. We can start right here in Columbia, South Carolina.
Now, he made the statement that we all live in this culture, and he was just sort of abiding by societal standards. Do you believe there really is this culture of racism? Is there any validity to his statement?
Of course there is. Look at the schools that are funded and the schools that aren't funded. There are very few instances of schools where the majority children attend. Look at who gets health care and who does not get health care. Look at who gets contracts and who does not get contracts. Look at the salary disparities that are based strictly on race. W.E.B. Du Bois in 1902 in the Atlantic Monthly said that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. Well, let's fast forward 12 years later, not 12 years later, that was in 1902, 102 years later, 112 years later, to 2014. The problem of the 21st century is still the problem of the color line, not by the content of your character, but by the color of your skin. And we got to get away from that if we want to be what we claim we are, a land of opportunity for all people, and we are a long way from that.
Now, Mr. McLawhorn, we know his comments have an impact on the league. That's clear. What about its impact on us, on the country?
Well, I think the way that the advertisers and other people responded, I think the difference in the type of racial experience we had years ago compared to today is that people are prepared to retaliate against this type of conduct. 50 years ago, people were quiet and not as responsive as today. But I think they send a strong message when you have major advertisers making very clear to the whole NBA family that we're not going to tolerate this kind of situation. I think the thing about the civil rights movement, people talk a lot about the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and what did it do? Basically, it changed behavior. It might not necessarily change one's heart, but it changed behavior. And we do have a code of conduct that we expect people to adhere to. Some people call it civility. And I think when you have a breakdown, that we as a society must respond. Mm-hmm. Racism is nothing new. I tell people, some people made the statement after President Obama was elected that we live in a post-racial era, in essence, And I think we got too many people who believe that, but as Dr. Randolph said, each and every day you see an incident where this beast raises its head. And we have to be vigilant. Race relations is something I call work in process. And what that means is that we haven't reached the finish line. And if we're not careful, we think we've made gains and then we get pushed back. We have to be eternally vigilant.
Right. I remember reading a headline when President Obama was first elected that said, "Race barrier falls." And clearly we're seeing evidence that that is not the case. But Dr. Randolph, I want to ask you, the NAACP, the LA branch of the NAACP, honored Mr. Sterling with a Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2009. What did you think about that? Was that warranted then?
Well, I don't know. I've never been part of or had any contact with the, we have some 4,000 branches around the country. We have 86 in South Carolina. And these individuals are volunteers and they come from the community. Some people know who that they can latch on to and can get to promote things that aren't right. That's nothing new. The thing that's so amazing about all of this is that what's new under the sun? There are people in the NAACP that don't do what they're supposed to do. They don't adhere to the policies and practices of the NAACP. But I will tell you that I'm convinced that 99% of the people who take on this task, we are unpaid volunteers who want to make America better. And for 105 years, that's all we've done. South Carolina is a better place because of the NAACP. The mere fact that the Plessy decision of 1896 wasn't overturned in Topeka, Kansas. It took a very bold, vivacious group of individuals, 20 in the first group, 100 in the second group, that signed petitions and took not just America to court, but South Carolina to court, so that little black children could get books and go to school and get an education, something that was illegal in the state for many years and is still dealt with black children in South Carolina. Remember, we're in the 22nd year of the education equity lawsuit, and that hadn't been solved yet. Wonder how hard is it to say that all kids need books, good books.
Well, finally, I want to ask, how do we move forward? What's the next step for us?
Well, I think, first of all, we must realize that this is nothing foreign to California, that this is pervasive here each and every day. And we have to recognize it for what it is. Quite often people can camouflage racism. They can camouflage the mistreatment of people. We have people on jobs each and every day. They go to work in a hostile environment. We hear the stories about it. Somebody got to stand up, in essence. And if it were not for this recording, we would not probably having this discussion today. Right. We got so many, what I call undercover racists and bigots, in essence. They must be exposed. Once they're exposed, then we can deal with it. But I think that the efforts of the NAACP on the firing line, it's been on the firing line for years, the front line in addressing these issues. I don't think we should make a lot about what happened in LA with that LA chapter, because people do make mistakes. Right. That is not the story.
Right, but it is starting the discussion, and I thank you both for joining me this morning to continue this dialogue. Thank you. Still to come on awareness.
We stand together in condemning Mr. Sterling's views. They simply have no place in the NBA.
What kind of impact does Donald Sterling's comments leave on the league? Can the NBA rebound? We talk with experts in the field. The Clippers players staged a silent protest of sorts during Game 4 of the playoffs against Golden State. They wore their warm-up shirts inside out. To the criticism of some, the team did continue to play that night. What impact does this controversy have on the team, and what lasting impact is it leaving on the league? Joining us now with a unique perspective is George Glymph, a former NBA assistant head coach who spent 10 years in the league. He also had a legendary career as head coach at Eau Claire High School. Also with us, WIS Sports Director Rick Henry. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Do you think Donald Sterling's personal beliefs impact his ability to be an owner?
I think so, because if you go back and look at some of the things that he has done over the years, you know, it has been shown that he has been a racist. So in the NBA, we knew that we'd heard things about him as an owner. And if you look at the how frugal he ran his team, it shows you that all this is true.
What did you witness while you were in the league as far as racism or discrimination, or even comments you had heard about Mr. Sterling?
I just heard comments. I didn't see anything, you know. But you know, people talk, and the players talk.
Right.
And when you have Elgin Baylor, one of the top players of all times, and that you treat him like a slave, then that tells you something about the person.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe, Rick, that his comments really did speak of a slavery era?
Of course. When you hear those comments, especially what he told his then girlfriend, that he didn't care if she slept with blacks, if she fed them, just don't be associated with them in public, don't have your picture taken, and don't bring them to the games. And to me, that's the mentality of a slave owner. And plus, when you ask how did it impact his running or his operation of his team, well, if he doesn't want a guy, a legend like Magic Johnson coming to his games, not only is Magic beloved by NBA fans all over the country, but just think how he's respected in Los Angeles, helping the Lakers win 5 NBA titles, rescuing the LA Dodgers, his economic development, providing jobs and opportunities for minorities, and you don't want this guy in your arena? What does that tell you? He doesn't want any black person in the arena based on that.
But again, he said that he was just responding to a culture that already existed. That was what he said in his statement. But let me switch gears to the Clippers players. Do you think their silent protest was the right move? Do you think it was enough? Do you think it was too much?
You know, that's hard to say. You must remember one thing. They still have a job. You know, you have a job. There are certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. So they have to be very careful. They're walking a thin line in what they had to do. But I thought it was effective in what they did, and it didn't draw the lines.
There's an article that was written recently that called black people, and specifically some of the Clippers players, cowards because they did not do enough, that certain sacrifices need to be made, a missed paycheck, for example, to really drive the point home. Well,
you know, in any situation, they don't know. People say a lot of things about you, about me, that what we should do and what we shouldn't do. They can't talk for me. You can't talk for those those Clippers players, because we don't know. We don't know. We only know what goes out. So I commend them on what they did.
Right. Well, let's listen to a soundbite from Coach Doc Rivers.
And the healing process has started. And so we're going to keep growing and getting away from this.
So he's talking about moving forward and healing. What is the next step for the players, the team, the franchise, and the league?
Well, it's tough right now. I mean, we can say anything, but it's really tough because it's going to have to come within. And they have a plan. They have a plan. And as now, for Doc, he's going to have to try to get his team back on focus of winning the championship. And that might be difficult.
Right, because this was quite the distraction.
With everything that has happened, that might be very difficult.
And Rick, how do we move forward?
Well, I don't think you can wash this thing entirely away until Donald Sterling is out of the league completely. The commissioner, Adam Silver, says he has a plan. He has the support of the owners to make Sterling sell the franchise. It can't go to one of his family members because everyone knows that he'll be back in the background controlling the strings. But you have to get him out of the picture. And then the Clippers organization and the NBA can start to move forward. And also, the NBA, they really have to be vigilant the next time someone wants to buy a franchise. You can't just say, okay, you've got the money, give us the check, here's your NBA team. You really have to have a vetting process. Let's see if there's anything out there in the owner's personal life. And also when ownership groups are put together, maybe you've got to really seriously consider groups that have diversity with minorities in those groups.
Do you think that same consideration needs to be given to other professional sports?
Of course, yes, in all sports. Now, one thing that was so, Coach Glymph, that was so shocking and so stunning about Sterling's comments, when you look at the NBA as a whole, a league that has 75 to 80% black players, and the NBA had black coaches winning championships before the NFL had its first black head coach in the modern era. And so, plenty of black coaches, plenty of black GMs, but now we see that in the ownership group, that's maybe where you need some more representation.
Diversity, all right. Coach Glymph, Rick Henry, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for
having us. You're so welcome. It's been a pleasure.
When awareness returns, we look at a young black man excelling and pushing his future forward with a very special honor. We will introduce you to Emmanuel Presley. In a world where there are barriers facing youth today, there is one young man who is poised to succeed and has earned a very distinguished honor. Emmanuel Presley is a junior at Claflin University who is the school's first Truman Scholar. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell us all about the Truman Scholarship.
Well, the Truman Scholarship is a national merit scholarship. It's awarded to undergraduate juniors who has had a line of leadership, public service, as well as community service involvement. They have a desire to pursue careers in public service.
So tell me a little bit about your leadership.
Well, I've been active on Claflin Student Government Association since my matriculation at Claflin in 2011. I've sat on the Honors Council, as well as my dorm room council, as well as I do outreach in the community at the Boys and Girls Club and Longwood Plantation Assisted Living Facility.
You stay busy.
Yes.
Now, what does this scholarship afford you? What are you able to do now with this?
Well, the Truman awards me $30,000 to pursue my graduate education. A slew of conferences, internships, as well as a network of like-minded individuals such as myself in an effort to help propel me for my future.
Now, what was this application process like, and how were you first told about this award, the scholarship?
I was told, the Honors College director, Ms. Tisdale, she told me about it my freshman year. And from then on, I was working with an educational consultant to tailor my resume, my personal statement, my internships, and many of my community service outreach programs to attain the scholarship. I started applying for the scholarship when I was studying abroad last semester in Brazil. I notified my recommenders, President Tisdale, and I immediately told them that I wanted to apply and compete for the scholarship.
Now, is this a competitive process?
It is. 655 juniors from all across the country, from almost 300 institutions, applied for the scholarship. It is the second highest scholarship in the country, National Merit Scholarship.
It is very prestigious, and you're the only one in South Carolina, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Claflin's very first Truman Scholar.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean to you?
Being awarded the Truman Scholarship, to me, truly embodies and personifies leaving Claflin better than what I found it. I aspire to be great. I know my mom, my family, Dr. Tisdale, just my community in general have high expectations of me, and I want to meet those expectations.
Great. Well, congratulations to you. I know all this hard work will take you far. And finally, just tell us what you plan to do next, moving forward.
My long-term goals includes becoming an attorney, but I also want to open my own nonprofit organization geared towards combating felony disenfranchisement laws. Once you are labeled a felon, I have noticed so many rights being taken away once you label a felon because of the stigma and stereotypes.
And
rights
you want to help to fix that and change that.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Emmanuel, so much for being with us, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back with a final thought. Decades ago, W.E.B. Du Bois said, "The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line." That sentiment still rings true today. There is no home for divisive, demeaning, or discriminatory language on any level. As a united nation, we should strive to uplift and unify each other, regardless of race, status, or the labels that sometimes separate us. Your personal beliefs and opinions are yours. But as we see, those private thoughts can dictate your actions and can manifest themselves publicly, carrying negative repercussions. We are all human beings, imperfect creatures cut from the same cloth. What will you choose to believe? We would like to thank all of our guests this morning. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.